What is up, guys? So a couple days ago I did a tier list with all of the speedsters in the Arrowverse, or really from the Flash, putting each character into the tier they deserve to be in, and in the end rearranging it to more accurately represent my actual ranking for all the speedsters. A lot of you guys said I should do the same thing with archers, so that is what I'm doing here. I'm going to take all the archers from the Arrowverse, most of them from Arrow except for like one or two, putting them each into the tier they deserve to be in, and then in the end, again, rearranging the whole thing to more accurately represent my actual opinion about these archers, or I mean the ranking. Now, just for a note, this is not about how good they are as archers, this is about how good they are as characters. I'm not including certain characters who are, although used a bow and arrow once or twice, are not really considered archers, like White Canary, Damien Dark, Nyssa Al Ghul, Black Canary, or Martin Stein, but I am including characters who were temporary archers, like Spartan and Barry Allen, or John Diggle and Barry Allen, because they did become archers for a while. There's a whole storyline with them becoming archers, so I'm including them. Also, Prometheus, despite the fact that archery isn't his main weapon, it's the shuriken and the sword, it is a part of his arsenal, so I am including it in this video. So with all of that out of the way, I'm going vertically, and let's start with Oliver Queen, aka the Green Arrow, who needs absolutely no explanation for what tier he's going in. He's the main character of Arrow, probably the best character in the Arrowverse, and in my opinion is. The actor who plays him, Stephen Amell, is also my favorite actor in the Arrowverse. He's really badass, a lot of great development over the course of the season. By far, out of, I think, the two, the best live-action version of Green Arrow and Oliver Queen to ever appear on screen. So I think the S tier is perfect for Oliver Queen, and basically every tier list he's ever going to appear in, except for maybe, except for the Speedster tier list, where he was, I think, like A or B tier. I don't 100% remember off the top of my head. Anyway, we have Evelyn Sharma, aka Artemis, who is not a good character at all. She debuted in Arrow Season 4, which is not good for any character because her storyline and her character were automatically pretty bad. Not only that, but she debuted in the worst part ever, the episode after Laurel died, where she took over the mantle of Black Canary for a little bit. It was a terrible storyline, and although Season 5 definitely improved her a little bit, because it improved everything in the show at least a little bit, she still was probably the worst part of that season, where her betrayal of Team Arrow made no sense. She betrayed a post-serial killer who killed bad guys to work with a current serial killer who kills cops and innocent people. It made absolutely no sense. On top of all that, her actress is not very good, so I would put Artemis in the D tier, which is a shame because Artemis, at least from Young Justice, is a great character, and it's a shame that this version of Artemis is definitely nowhere near as interesting. So then we have Roy Harper, aka Arsenal, who, although being absent for a large portion of Arrow, which Arrow Season 4 barely appeared, Arrow Season 6 barely appeared, Arrow Season 5 didn't appear at all, and Arrow Season 7 only really appeared in the Flash forwards and barely appeared in the present day. He's been absent for a large part of Arrow. Despite all of this, he still remains as one of the best characters in the Arrowverse. Colton Haynes does a great job in the role. His costume is awesome. He's pretty badass, and he's definitely a great portrayal of the character. He has some great storylines over the course of the seasons that he has appeared in, and his relationship with Thea is probably the best relationship in the entirety of the Arrowverse, which gives both of them a lot of points, and I would put Roy Harper in the A tier. So then we have the main villain of Arrow Season 1, Malcolm Merlyn, who at least in Season 1 is definitely an S-tier character. His motivation, the acting from John Barrowman, the storyline, everything is really good. It's incredible in Arrow Season 1. The only reason he's not going to be in the S-tier is because of Arrow Season 3, where he propelled the terrible storyline that made no sense. He kind of became a laughable version of himself. And that being said, in Arrow Season 2, he was pretty good, although he didn't appear very much. In Arrow Season 4, he was definitely not as bad as the rest of the season, and he was a pretty great villain in Legends of Tomorrow Season 3, but I would say that A tier is definitely very good for the character. He's just a general very good character, but again, if this is just based off Arrow Season 1, he would go in the S tier. For now, though, I would put him in the A tier, and he's dead at this point, so that's probably never going to change. So then we have Nyssa Al Ghul, who is a lot more significant in the Arrowverse than her sister Talia Al Ghul compared to the DC Comics, which is pretty cool how they did that with this much more minor character in Nyssa Al Ghul. The actress who plays her is pretty cool, is pretty good in the role. She's pretty badass, she's got a lot of great storylines and moments over the course of the show. She's definitely a pretty great character who, although maybe not A tier material, I think deserves to be in the B tier. So then we have Yao Fei Gulong as well as his daughter Shadow Gulong. I'm going to do both of them right here because they're very similar characters. They're both pretty great characters from the flashbacks of Season 1 and 2. Both great teachers for Oliver, teaching him how to shoot a bow and arrow. And although Shadow's more of a love interest, obviously, and Yao Fei Gulong is a lot more of a mentor, they both really, really worked for the beginning of the flashbacks. They definitely haven't appeared enough to really be A-tier material, or at least they haven't really been significant enough to be A-tier material, but I think both of them definitely deserve to be in the B tier as they're great flashback characters and great teachers to Oliver back in the Season 1 and 2 flashbacks. So then we have Carrie Cutter, aka Cupid, who is definitely not a very good villain at all. She's just way too over the top for this show. The tonal difference between the rest of the show and this character is staggering. Maybe not in our Season 4, where the tone is pretty consistent with the character, but that's definitely not a good thing. In our Season 3, it's so staggering, the tonal difference between the show and this character. And although she was not bad in our Season 7, she didn't really appear all that much, and her storyline with the Ghost Initiative was kind of thrown out the window. This character is way too over the top, way too cheesy, way too cartoony for the tone of the show, and when it does fit the tone of the show is garbage in our Season 4, so I would put Cupid in the D tier. So then we have the main villain of Crisis on Earth X, the Dark Arrow, who is the Earth X counterpart to Oliver Queen. I actually just learned recently that these two characters, Dark Arrow and Black Arrow, are two different characters. I thought, even though it doesn't really make any sense with the continuity, where Dark Arrow is ranks above Overgirl in terms of command, and Black Arrow is under her, it didn't really make any sense where that continuity fit, but I thought they were still the same character because Freedom Fighters doesn't really have a lot of continuity between the crossover and the show. Turns out they're not the same character at all. I would definitely put this character in the F tier because he is a part of Freedom Fighters, and that's a garbage TV show, and he is a part of it. I don't really remember much from the show or him as a character, but I think that since he's a part of that show, he definitely deserves to be in the F tier. As for Dark Arrow, he's a pretty good villain. I mean, not great or anything. I don't think he was the best crossover villain to date, although there weren't a lot of great ones. He definitely was one of the better ones, just not the best one. I think Stephen Amell didn't do an incredible job in the role of an evil Nazi villain, which is just not his type of role, I guess. He's definitely a very menacing character in the crossover, and his costume is awesome, but I don't think he's an incredible character at all, but I definitely would say he belongs to be in the B tier. So then we have Thea Queen, aka Speedy, who, although I didn't think she was a great character in the beginning of the show, after the first couple episodes, she has been one of the most consistently good characters over the course of the seasons. Even in Season 3 and 4 and 5 and 6, she was a great character with a great costume and a great backstory and a great relationship with both her father, the other two A-tier characters, her father and her boyfriend. I think that Thea Queen also deserves to be in the A tier along with those two characters. So then we have Prometheus, aka Adrian Chase, also known as Simon Morrison, who is my favorite villain on this show. Although he only appeared in one season, that one season was definitely enough to leave an impact as the best villain on this show. I think the actor who plays him, Josh Segarra, is incredible. Maybe not as good as John Barrowman, maybe not really there, but he's almost equal to John Barrowman's acting ability and Stephen Amell's. The costume is pretty cool, and although he's incredibly comic book accurate, I think they improved on the comics, and they really just used the name, and that is it, and they made a much better character. His motivation, his storyline, his acting, everything about the character I think is practically perfect, aside from the fact that in Season 6 they made him basically be kind of a character who didn't really mean anything in the end, and it was kind of insignificant. Other than that, in Season 5 itself he was awesome, so I would put him in the S tier. So then we have Talia Al Ghul, who, while not nearly as good as Nyssa Al Ghul, I actually really like her as a character. I think there's been one other live-action version of Talia Al Ghul in Dark Knight Rises, and I think this is a much better version. She's pretty cool, she's pretty badass, and I think she had a great motivation in Season 5. Honestly, she could have been the main villain of a season. I would have preferred her over Emiko Queen as the first female main villain of the show, because her motivation of Oliver Queen killing Ra's al Ghul is similar to her motivation in The Dark Knight Rises. It really works in my opinion. opinion. I think that her appearance in season 7 was also pretty awesome, where she's a much different character, a character who doesn't really have any hatred for Oliver anymore. That was pretty cool, and I definitely want to see her maybe in Batwoman if I ever watch that show, or maybe see her come face to face with the Arrowverse's version of Batman. I think that this is a great version of Talia Al Ghul, who, although didn't get as much screen time as Nyssa, definitely is pretty equal in terms of how good they are, although she's definitely going to be a little bit lower when I rearrange the tier list. So then we have Simon Lacroix, also known as Komodo, who I think was one of the most underused characters in the entirety of the Arrowverse. He could have been a very cool main villain. He could have had a great backstory. He could have been pretty badass, but he wasn't. He was a literal one-off villain, which is insane to me. I mean, at least give him maybe a secondary main villain role. Maybe he could have been the secondary main villain in a different season, 4, 5, 6, 7, any of those seasons, where season 3 already had a secondary main villain. So did 5 and kind of 6, but maybe and 7, so maybe in season 4 he could have been the secondary main villain. I don't know, but I think they really wasted this character. He's definitely not bad as a character. He has his moments in the one episode he appeared in, but he's such a wasted character that I'm not going to put him any higher than the D tier. So then we have John Diggle, aka the Green Arrow, and just like Oliver Queen from Elseworlds being the Flash, and also later in this video, Barry Allen being the Green Arrow, I'm only counting the parts of the character that they were that thing, where John Diggle was an Archer, meaning episodes, I think, like 3 to 7 of Arrow Season 6, which were some of the worst episodes in terms of the Star City storylines. Those episodes had some pretty good moments where Oliver and Deathstroke were teaming up, but when we saw Diggle as the Green Arrow, it was so bad. He had like one good fight scene, and the rest of the scenes just didn't look good. John Diggle himself, the actor, really didn't fit in the costume. It also doesn't really look very good on him, but aside from that, it just didn't really work as a storyline. It was just so boring. Everything was just so boring over the course of the seasons outside of the Deathstroke storyline, and that's really it. Now, when I said seasons, I meant episodes. At the time, I thought he should have died in the Lee and Yu explosion, which is why it made me hate it so much more. Now, I don't think he should have died because he is Jon Stewart, but at the time, I really thought that it was a good place for him to go because of his eventual downfall, or I was right because of his eventual downfall in Season 6. John Diggle as the Green Arrow, I think, honestly, is F-tier material. So then we have Emiko Queen, the main villain of Arrow Season 7, who, she's definitely not a great character at all. I think the main problem with her is the actress is really bad, like, genuinely terrible. She's just so bad in terms of being evil, in terms of being an antagonist, in terms of the dramatic acting scenes. She's just really bad. I think I really like her costume, and her backstory and connection to Oliver is pretty good. It's just that they really could have done so much more with it. The fact that she's an archer really didn't play much into her character, which it really could have. She could have had some archery duels with Oliver, which she never did. So because of all that, Emiko, although maybe not F-tier material, I would put in the D tier and probably at the bottom of it. So then we have Masayo Yamashiro, who is a pretty good character. Like, in the flashbacks of Arrow Season 3, while it's definitely not my favorite flashback season, in fact, it's maybe tied for my least favorite with Arrow Season 4's flashbacks. I think he's definitely not the reason it was bad, the flashbacks. It was just that it wasn't on the island, and Hong Kong. Not a very interesting setting for the flashbacks. A lot of things I didn't like about the main villain, but Masayo Yamashiro, or Sarab that he would later be called, was not the problem. I think in the present day, his storyline with Katana, although it didn't really take up much screen time, was definitely not bad at all. And although he isn't really primarily an archer, he's more of a swordsman as far as I remember, he definitely wasn't a bad character at all, who although definitely doesn't deserve to be any higher than the C tier, I think he definitely also does deserve to be in the C tier. So then we have Mia Smoke, or Mia Queen, or whatever, the daughter of Oliver and Felicity, who is pretty bad. She's very similar in the way she acts to Felicity Smoke, which is not good at all. Although I haven't really hated her as much as I've hated Felicity Smoke, I do think that she is a pretty bad character. The only time she wasn't a bad character was in the season finale of Arrow Season 7, where she appeared as a baby. Other than that, she is just a terrible character. The actress who plays her is fine, and she definitely looks kind of like the daughter of Felicity and Oliver, although I kind of think she looks more like the daughter of Oliver and Laurel. But still, I think that that part of it they got down, if that's even a positive at all. all. Anyway, this character, I think, is definitely not very good, and she's definitely not much of an archer either. They had a couple scenes where she used a bow and arrow, but there really could have been more of that if they want to establish her as the future's Green Arrow, even though they already established the future Green Arrow, the next character I'm going over. Anyway, Mia Smoke, although maybe not F-tier material, I think deserves to be in the D tier, along with her aunt, Emiko Queen. So then we have the other future Green Arrow, Connor Hawke, aka the Green Arrow, from that one episode, which is Star City 2040 or 2046 of Legends of Tomorrow. This is not the same character who appeared in the flash forwards of Arrow Season 7. Despite being played by the same actor, they're not even related, which means the two characters, they're not technically related. They are technically related by the fact that they have the same father, Connor Hawke's adopted father and John Diggle Jr.'s father, but this is John Diggle Jr., John Diggle's actual son, while the character in Arrow Season 7's flash forwards is Connor Hawke, the son of Ben Turner. It makes no sense to me that they look the same, but anyway, this is definitely a much better version of the character, despite the fact that he only appeared in one episode, and is the only version that is an archer and the Green Arrow. I really like this storyline in the episode. I really like his costume. It's a shame we haven't seen the costume again. Maybe worn by somebody in the future, maybe worn by Oliver himself in an episode or two, or maybe in a storyline or something, or maybe an alternate version. I just think his costume is really cool and unique. In general, this character is pretty good, who probably deserves to be in the C tier because he hasn't really appeared enough to be in the B tier. It's only really one episode, but I could say he's definitely going to be in the top of that tier. So the final character is a character we technically already went over. In fact, it was the first character we went over, which was Oliver Queen, aka the Green Arrow, but this is one played by Grant Gustin, who thinks he is Barry Allen, or knows that he is Barry Allen. Anyway, this was a great dynamic. Like I mentioned in my Speedster video, my Speedster tier list video, this idea was pretty genius to switch these two characters and switch their bodies, and also they switched their personalities, where Oliver became more lighthearted, and Barry became more dark, which was just really, really fun to see. I think that Oliver as the Flash is a little bit more entertaining than Barry as the Green Arrow, but I think Barry as the Green Arrow is definitely still very entertaining as well. I think the costume somehow looks really cool on Grant Gustin. I think Grant Gustin did a great job playing a Barry Allen who acts like Oliver Queen. He was actually pretty badass in these two episodes. He was the Green Arrow, so I would put him in the B tier because considering he hasn't really appeared that much, probably near the bottom. So I'm going to pause the video right now so that I can rearrange the tier list and make it accurately represent my actual ranking for all of these characters. So here's my official ranking for all of the archers in the Arrowverse. You have, first of all, in the F tier in last place, John Diggle, for the 3 episodes or whatever that he was the Green Arrow, and also you have Black Arrow from Freedom Fighters of the Ray. In the D tier, you have Evelyn Sharma, Emiko Queen, Mia Smoke, Komodo, and Cupid. In the C tier, you have Sarab or Masayo Yamashiro, as well as the Green Arrow, also known as Connor Hawke and John Diggle Jr. In the B tier, you have Yao Fei, the Dark Arrow, Barry Allen, Shadow, Talia Al Ghul, and Nyssa Al Ghul. In the A tier, starting off the top 5, is Speedy, otherwise known as Thea Queen, Arsenal, also known as Roy Harper, and Malcolm Merlyn, the Dark Archer. In the S tier, we have Prometheus, aka Adrian Chase, aka Simon Morrison, and by far the best character in not only this tier list, but also the best character in the Arrowverse is Oliver Queen, aka the Green Arrow. So let me know all your thoughts in the comments down below. What is your tier list and what do you think of mine? Let me know more ideas for tier lists and also ranking videos and other things you want me to talk about in Arrow Season 6, or Arrow Season 8, or The Flash Season 6, and as always, thanks for watching.